Hey there. Little technical glitch there. So, do you feel like you need more connection in your life? Do you feel like there's something missing and you're looking for more fulfillment, for more connection, and really for more joy in your life? If that sounds like you, you are so in the right place. I'm very excited to bring to you today the amazing Marie Elizabeth Marley. Now, Elizabeth is a relationship transformation expert. I like to think of her as a relationship alchemist. But there's so much more to it than that, because she, in her journey, has dived into kind of the magic of how we can use our desire and allow our desire to help us create more of what we want in life, not just in our relationships, but in everything. How cool is that? And that's what we're talking about today. I'm super excited about sharing. And this really is divine timing, purely by accident. We are having this conversation just at the exact time where Marie Elizabeth has some extra special, exciting pre-Christmas goodies available. And so I'm encouraging you to please hang around to the end of this call, because we've got some great stuff to share with you. And we've got a lot of nuggets to share between now and then too. So I'm very, very excited about this. And without any further ado, let's dive in, right? I'm just going to share a little bit about why we're doing this call. I mean, you live in the world. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? We all need a lot of resources in order to handle it. So these Manifestation Monday calls that I'm running are about helping you to really access ideas and practical real world experience from people who are actually living on that side of the stick, as it were, of creating the life that you love, despite everything that's going on around. And we're doing this so that you can actually gain the nuggets and the insights and the practical tips to help you to actually live a life that brings you joy and fulfillment, regardless of all the stuff going on, right, in the external world. That's what this is all about. So just quickly, I mean, I do this every week. I'd like to say a huge welcome to everybody who's live. We've got some fantastic goodness to share with you today. So a couple of things. We're going to cover a lot so that you don't feel you need to take notes and all that kind of thing. There are going to be show notes for this call. If you want a copy, just let us know, right? Just let us know. We'll make sure you get those. That way you can focus on all the goodness. And I know that there are people, you know, in your life who might be struggling with all of the stuff and the angst and the stress that's, you know, available to us in the world right now. So if you know anyone you feel would benefit from this, feel free to sprinkle the love around the internet, because this is about helping, you know, everyone who needs that energy boost, right? So without any further ado, let's talk about how you can allow your desire to create the life that you love. I'm very excited to welcome Marie Elizabeth. So good to have you here, Marie Elizabeth. And look, just to get started, I'd love if you can share a bit with everyone watching um, about your journey, you know, about really how you came to be the relationship alchemist.
Thank you, Anna. It's so good to be here. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. And really, how I came to be here was I've always had a lot of clarity about my work, about my purpose in the world, about what I'm here to offer. And what I realized once I got into my mid 40s and got divorced was that the one area of my life that just didn't go as well as the rest was relationships. And so at that point, I really devoted myself to learning how to do them better. I entered a coaching program around relationships. I took this deep dive studying relationship dynamics and sexuality for 2 years. And through that study, not only met the love of my life because he was also involved in the same community, but also, and we've been together now for the past 7 years, but I also redefined my work again to include and focus on relationships because they're so central to our health.
Mm.
I don't think we think about or realize often enough how central love and connection and the health of our relationships is to our health, to our magnetism in our business, to our connections with our friends and family. It really is such a core aspect of what we have the potential to live in life on this planet. And so few of us know how to do them well because we're just not taught.
If anything, we're taught the opposite, right? And I can see there's a few people here listening to us live as well. So huge, big welcome. It's great to have you here, whether
Welcome.
you're live or on the replay. I mean, there's already some nuggets coming through. Yeah. So I invite you and welcome you to drop in the chat any nuggets or ahas that you get, because I mean, that helps us to remember them, right? But what a vital point that is, Marie Elizabeth, is that our relationships, it's not just one siloed part of our life, right? The quality of our relationships affects everything. And you've talked about our businesses and the rest, also our physical health too, yeah? So,
Literally,
yeah.
literally, that studies have shown that having a high conflict relationship affects our immune system
Mm-hmm.
for the worse. It brings it down. It has
Mm-hmm.
us releasing more cortisol, which has a negative effect
Mm-hmm.
on the body because of stress. So they even though we don't always think about how core they are to our physical and mental well-being, they really are.
Yeah.
And they're also the area that we have the least amount of training. Like we go to school to
Yeah.
learn our profession, we go to school to learn math for of all things, not my profession. You know, we go to school to learn all these things, but we're somehow magically expected to know how to relate to one another when most of us had parents that weren't necessarily very skilled.
Yeah.
Not, you know, not that they were all bad or anything, but few parents, at least of my generation. I think the younger generation now has the benefit of more consciousness in the parents. But my generation still had, you know, boomer parents who just didn't have a lot of training and didn't have a lot of education and emotional intelligence
Mm.
or, you know, conversational communication skills or anything like that. And so consequently, we grew up with all this patterning to not necessarily know how to do things well. I grew up with a very critical father, and so I had a tendency to criticize. I had a tendency to uh, wall up or shut down when
Mhm.
I was upset because I got that from my mother, who was Swedish. You know, and Swedes tend to be somewhat stoic and not super communicative when they're mad. So I had that, you know, so I have sort of all these competing things in my system. And so I had to really learn how to undo all that conditioning and learn how to communicate more skillfully, how to invite connection even when I'm pissed, for example. And all of that led
That's
to
huge.
this alchemical, magical work
Mm.
that I do now.
And so there's some huge nuggets in there already. It's just being aware, right? That actually it's okay for us not to feel comfortable about our current level of relationship skills, because it's kind of like when we're learning to walk, right? For a lot of us, we're still at that crawling and falling down a lot stage. And I know that's still true for me, even at this
It's
stage
true
in life,
for
right?
all of us. I
Yeah.
mean, you said it so beautifully. I think most of us are really in a position where we're kind of either crawling or walking or barely at the adolescent stage when it comes to how we relate. And
Mm.
so for us to really learn how to have an adult relationship is a thing. Like it's a
Yeah.
thing. I want to shout out Andrea and Felicia for your comments. Thank you so much. It's so great that you're here with us and so grateful that you're here. And if you have any nuggets or questions, feel free to pop them in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so good. And it brings the energy to have such awesome people sharing this conversation with us. So so many places we could go, but just let's dive a little bit more into that. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you, because there's a great big permission slip there for all of us, right? To be forgiving to ourselves about where we're at in terms of our relationships, to be less judging of ourselves, because then we can be less judgmental towards other people. And OMG, what are our relationships going to be like when we can enter into them without the judgment? So, Marie Elizabeth, can we dive a little bit more into this concept of our relationships as kind of a form of alchemy. I love that idea because it's like transforming lead into gold, right? And the elixir of life.
Yes,
So cool. So can you
yes,
speak to relationships as a form of alchemy and magic in our lives? What have you learned?
absolutely. So what I've learned and what I work with is that relationships really reveal us to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because when we are in relationship, and this goes beyond romantic relationship, whether it's a business relationship, a familial relationship, a friend relationship, or a romantic relationship, through the mirror of the other person, we can see how we're responding to things or reacting to things. So maybe they say or do something we don't like. What do we do? Do we immediately fly off the handle? Do we shut down? Do we withdraw? It's good to get to know your reactions. And these relationships with other people provide a mirror through which we can see ourselves more clearly.
Mm,
Secondly, these challenges and disconnections, the lead, as it were, are precisely the material for us to work with to craft into the gold. And the gold, as I look at it, is the ability to maintain intimacy and connection in the face of whatever it is that would try to drive you apart. So, can you disagree with somebody but stay connected with them at the same time? Can you set a boundary without having to reject or judge or make wrong? Can you hold your boundaries and still stay connected? Now, sometimes you do have to disconnect from someone completely and maybe cut off communication because they refuse to honor your boundaries. They refuse to meet you in such a way that you can open to them.
mhm.
And then that's what you do. But ultimately, our relationships, it can be hard to see ourselves, right? Like, a popular image, or at least popular in my lexicon, I've seen it a lot, is you can't read the label on a jar from inside the jar. So, right? Like if you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. And so the person outside the jar, you're inside the jar of you. So half the time you can't see what the heck you're doing because you're just doing the automatic thing and you're not aware of the impact it's having on other people. But someone who loves you, who's on the other side of the jar, can read your label and go, oh, feels like you're upset. Like, oh, feels like you're judging me. Hey, what's going on over there right now? Right. And all of those beautiful invitations from the person outside the jar looking at you can help you recognize, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was upset, but yeah, you're right. I am upset. Sorry, that was hella passive aggressive or whatever it was that you just did, right? Sometimes you need that reflection to help you see your own inner workings more
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And Marilyn, thank you so much for your comment there. That's just such a fabulous analogy that we cannot see from inside the jar. So, so good. And look, I'm just listening to everything that you're sharing. This is not just about relationships. This is relationships as one of the most powerful um, ingredients, if you like, for that process of manifestation, whichever way we look at it, whether we're trying to achieve our goals or whether we're trying to use brain science or whether we are wanting to leverage the law of attraction or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what way we look at it, right?
Yeah.
Our what we see in other people you're sharing is a direct reflection of what we've got going on inside. And so it is the most valuable form of feedback we have because it says, hey, this is what's keeping us stuck, right?
Yeah.
How good is that?
Well,
And once we have that feedback,
this
we
is
can actually work with that.
absolutely. And can we see where we need to grow, what we might need to alchemize, to use my language? Can we see what might need to be alchemized in order to have more of what we want in our lives and love ourselves right there?
Yeah,
Can we love the imperfection? Can we love and accept ourselves, even if the reflection we are receiving from another human being is that we're messing up, in that moment?
yeah,
And just like entrepreneurship, I hold entrepreneurship and relationship in a similar way in that they're two of the most powerful growth paths that we have. Because they show us to ourselves in the way I've just described. And so, can you approach, if you're an entrepreneur, your business in such a way that it grows you? Can you approach your relationships in such a way that they grow you? Not to shame you for doing it wrong, not, oh, I didn't get my manifestation result. That means I'm bad or wrong in some way, but rather, oh, like a tuning fork tunes to a certain pitch. What might I need to tune up more effectively to have the actual result that I desire? So, in a
Yeah.
relationship, for example, if you're having a conversation, I'm going to use a romantic relationship as an example right now, but this can apply again anywhere. If you ask for something or you say something to your partner or your date, and they give you a different response than you expected, well, it could just be their shit, right? It might have nothing to do with you. However, it's also an invitation to check in and go, huh, is there some kind of mismatch between the words I just said and my energy?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I see a lot is when we have a lot of built up resentment in our system, we can we can use all the nonviolent communication techniques and all the conversation frameworks and all the pretty language that we learned to say things nicely,
Yeah.
but they're going to feel that undercurrent of,
Yeah.
there's what I call a cognitive disconnect,
Yeah.
a mismatch between the words we're using and the energy that's being transmitted. And when there's a mismatch, that's where you get a weird response back.
Yeah.
That's where you get the misfiring of your manifestation. So the
Mm,
manifestation you wanted to have, that you've been sending that intention for, the energetic underneath was not a match to that. And that's why you got back the result that you got back.
yeah.
And
And
so again, with another person, it could also just be their crap. So don't always take everything to mean you're doing anything wrong, but just recognize there might be a mismatch operating. And what can I do to bring myself into alignment?
I love that. So just to really bring that together, if we can just notice, let go of any judgment or shame, and simply be curious. You're reminding me a lot of Brene Brown, which in my book is a huge compliment for you
Well,
because what we're
she's
talking
one of my
about here is
idols.
right, yeah. It's the real act of having the courage to step into that wholehearted living that she's talking about, which is having that courage to accept that invitation to go, yeah, this is actually where the real work and where the real opportunity is to notice, be curious, and to approach that, like you said, with that attitude of loving ourselves and accepting ourselves. And that itself is hard, right? Because so many of us are told that that's not okay. So
Yeah.
I'd really love to talk to you. You also talked about, relationships and entrepreneurship, and both provide these opportunities. So, I mean, you might want to speak to my comparison to Brene Brown and what I just said there, but I'd also love to explore a little bit more about how this plays out in our wider relationships, including as an entrepreneur or someone who's in business, who's having those kinds of conversations too, because the same principles would apply, right?
Same principles apply. And this is something I think a lot about, obviously, as an entrepreneur myself. If something is not, if we're not having the results we desire, let's say we put out a piece of marketing and it doesn't come back, no one responds, or not as many people respond as we want to, or people don't respond in the way that we wanted them to. It can be so easy, and I know I've done this a lot in my growth journey. It can be so easy to go like, on the one hand, what's wrong with me? Why don't they like me? But on the other hand, what's wrong with them? Why
Hmm.
don't they see me? Right? So that you can
Hmm.
go kind of to one extreme or the other. And and the thing is, it's neither. It's neither. It's, again, it's the tuning fork analogy. What are you resonating with? If you're putting out this beautiful piece of marketing, but you don't believe that anybody wants what you have to offer, they're going to feel that and not want what you have to offer. It doesn't matter how nice you make it sound. And so the key is always, What am I transmitting? Who am I being? And to bring it to desire, right, if I may, to kind of bring back to the allowing your desire to create a life and business you love. Can you allow your desire to be fuel, to be so potent and
Mm,
so hot, as it were, that it burns through the dross, it burns through the lead of your
mm,
fears, of your trepidation around being seen, of your resistance to doing the work, of your desire for comfort. Can you allow your desire for that life, that relationship, that business that you want, that health, whatever it is that's driving you, can you allow that desire to be so strong that it pulls you through all the other crap?
I
That's
love
when you
it.
really start to create magic.
Yeah. Now, I know that everybody listening to this call, whether it's live or on the replay, has already heard so many times this idea, of have the burning desire and let everything else flow. And often, and I will say this is my industry. So a little call out of something I see in my industry is often it's these high performance coaches and so on who say you have to have a burning desire so you can be motivated and do the hustle and yeah. And that I don't know about you. For me, that's not
Oh,
it's not
that's
inspiring, and that's not what we're
yeah,
talking about here,
and
right?
that's
So
not what I'm talking about
yeah.
at all.
Can
So
we
so
talk
can I
more
can I
about what it
unpack
means
that
in
a bit?
practice? Yeah. How do we
Yeah,
actually do it in a way that's kind?
yes, and not doesn't burn out, doesn't
Yeah,
doesn't burn our adrenals out.
yeah.
So yeah, so the first piece in the way I work with desire is to recognize all the messaging that we have received and internalized around desire up until this point. If
Mm,
you have any kind of religious background, you probably internalized some aspect of desire is sinful. I mean, not to mention sexual desire, but like sexual desire literally is considered sinful when at the same time, like none of us would be on the planet if there wasn't sex. So like it has to, be a good thing because we're here.
yeah,
It brings us here. So, nothing wrong with that unless you don't want to be born. But there's the piece around being too wanting. Like there's so much messaging culturally, depending on your culture, like, oh, you don't want to want more than your station, or you don't want to be too demanding, especially as women. We're
mm,
taught to be small and to be pliable and amenable and agreeable and orient to everyone else's desire. And if
mm,
we are supercharged in our life about our own desire, somehow that makes us a bitch, or somehow that makes us uh, too much.
yeah, yeah.
So the first piece is to recognize what messaging have you internalized about desire, and does that still serve you? The second is to try on this offering that I make right now, which is desire is fuel.
Mm,
And nothing in the world, including the ocean, the earth, the sky, none of this would exist without the desire of chemicals and atoms to come together. The entire stuff of the universe, let's leave God out of it for a minute. The entire stuff of the universe is based on desire,
yeah,
magnetism, connection.
yeah.
And so how could that be wrong? The people telling us it's wrong have a vested interest in keeping us small, have a vested interest in control, have a vested interest in having us see them as an authority and us as not, because then we're more controllable. And
Mm,
so desire is revolutionary.
I
To
love that.
own your desire is revolutionary. It aligns you with the very stuff of the universe.
Mm,
And so I invite you to try that on and to give yourself permission to want whatever you want. Now, desire needs to be coupled with discernment. That's the second piece. You don't get everything you want just because you want it. That's like the 2-year-old's version of desire. You don't get everything you want to manifest just because you want it. That's a toddler's version, which is a lot of the shit that's taught.
Yeah, yeah, so
It's
true.
really let's go out and be spoiled brats.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not what I'm about at all. You have to couple your desire with discernment. And what the discernment is I have permission to want. I have permission to want anything I want. And then the discernment is this something I'm actually going to take action toward? Like,
Hmm.
is this an aligned thing to have, to want and have right now? Like, I'm allowed to want, I don't know, a private boat to go diving in Tahiti, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but is it aligned for me to go plunk down the $30,000 or whatever it would cost to go do that? Probably not. Not right now. Like, it's not at the top of my list. I'm not going to put energy toward that desire, but I'm allowed to have it. And it
yeah,
doesn't make it wrong.
yeah. I love that. So permission to dream and just enjoy. It's just fun to dream about these things, right? But
Yeah.
that doesn't
Well,
mean
it
we have
turns us
pressure
on.
on
This
ourselves.
is why it's feminine fuel, because it turns us on.
It
And when
does.
you're approaching life from a turned on perspective,
Yeah,
you get a lot hotter,
yeah.
and what you want to create gets attracted to you. So there's
Yeah,
that.
so why not? Live in that energy. Wouldn't it be nice to be on that yacht in Tahiti? Just we can go there in our imagination without having to do all of the stuff. And what I love about that, you talk about that and talking about discernment is that's where we actually get to sift out what is the stuff that's in alignment with me. One of the
Yeah,
things, and again, I'm calling out my own industry a bit here as well, is there's so much stuff, whether it's in goal setting or a manifestation or wherever, even in the well-being space, and which tells us to desire things and want things, and we have to want these things because when we have it then we'll be okay, and that is the biggest lie. Whereas what you're saying is, yeah, let's connect with the energy of it because then we feel good just by daydreaming about it, and then we get to choose where we're actually going to put our real energy by discerning. So can you unpack for us a little bit more your take on, well, how do we get ready, because this is a question that comes up a lot, you know,
great.
in these conversations is, well, how do I know which action is in alignment? What for you are the
Great.
biggest signs that this is my next step towards my
Yeah.
desire?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to unpack is the difference between a real desire or a true, authentic, aligned desire versus a compensatory desire. And what I mean by that, compensatory desires are desires that we are typically taught by advertisers to want, so that will be okay. You hit the nail on the head. You said it exactly. It's like, oh, I need to buy these shoes so that I can feel sexy, right? Or I need to buy this particular clothing, or this necklace even, so that I feel rich. And it's like, no, that's a compensatory desire. That is you trying to buy something to to fill a hole
Hmm.
that you're not willing to deal with and fill yourself.
Yeah.
A true desire is one that arises independently of that. And so the first step is to discern. Again, come back to discernment. Hey, do I want this thing? Do I want the dive trip in Tahiti on my private yacht? Not my yacht, the yacht I rent, right? Do I want this because, some celebrity did it and I want to be like them? Or do I want it because I genuinely love the ocean and would love the space to spread out on a boat and have it all to ourselves, and, et cetera? Like, what is true for me? So that's the first level of discernment. And then the second is, I mean, I kind of lost my train of thought here, but the second piece is to really, again, give yourself permission to want everything you want. Get clear about which actions you're going to take in service of the real desires, not the ones that are trying to cover up what you don't want to feel. And thirdly, do the work to fill up those holes simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you have a compensatory desire. You see an ad on Facebook for some jacket, and you're like, ooh, I want that jacket. And that's going to make me look good. And then you recognize, oh, that's me falling for the advertising. Then it's like, you do your own inquiry. Well, what has me feel I need this jacket to feel good? What would it be like to
Mm,
feel good without the jacket? Like, can I feel full and happy in myself without the jacket? Great. Then at that point, the jacket becomes gravy. And
nice.
that's
Still
where,
get to have
you know,
things, but the gravy on top. I love it. Or
it
icing on the
becomes the
cake.
gravy. Yeah, the
Yeah.
icing on the cake. It becomes the icing on the cake. You don't need the jacket, but if the jacket were to come into your life, you'd be psyched about it, right? So
Yeah,
it's a
I love
way
that.
different. I think
Mm,
so much of how we're taught about desire and manifestation has this kind of like grasping quality
mhm,
to it.
mhm,
Again, like you said, because it's trying to have us feel okay.
mm,
And in my book, this is something I would love to say, is I learned this years ago. I'm not a Buddhist, but this is one of my favorite Buddhist analogies that I always hold with me. So human beings have these tendencies to either push things away or grasp at things. Like we either have aversion. We don't like something, we're pushing things away, or we have this grasping,
mm.
like a quiz. What's the word? We want to acquire things, acquisitive,
Acquisitiveness,
kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
acquisition, right? And so the space you actually want to be in, you don't want to be doing this to life. You don't want to be pushing it away. You don't want to be doing this to life, pulling it. Detachment is really the ideal, and detachment is often misunderstood. What detachment actually looks like is an open palm and
Mhm.
the thing sitting in it. You're not pushing it and you're not grasping it. You're allowing it
Yeah,
to be there.
yeah,
You're in the world, but not of it. It's
yeah.
that space. And for me, that's where the magic happens in relationship. Can you be in relationship with someone and allow them to be themselves? Allow them to be their
That is
own
the work,
person?
right? Yeah, and
That's
whether
the
it's a
work.
business partner or a client or a spouse or a
Yeah.
child, right? That's the work.
Can you have an
And that
open palm?
yeah, open palm, and when we do that, we also allow us to be ourselves, and that's where the real
Yeah.
magic happens. You're talking about, like, this is the fundamental. If you're listening and you want one secret to having a happy life or a fulfilled life, boom, this was it, right? Which is simply that
Open
it's
palm.
that art of unattachment, is that art of detachment, but the word really is allowing, open palm. And you're making me think of Bill Harris, who the Center Point Meditations, and big, you've heard of him, yeah. He was an
Yeah.
amazing guy, and he used to say, just allow everything to be okay. Just allow
Yeah.
everything to be okay. Allow that I'm okay. Allow that others are okay.
Yeah.
So just to reflect back in terms of that, okay, so I've got the desire. I've got the desire. There's all this stuff that, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? And there's so much of it. How do I know what I'm actually going to put my energy towards? It's that discernment. And the key thing with discernment is when we see something and we have that, oh, I want it, to really get curious and ask ourselves that hard question: do I want it because something inside of me or someone outside of me is saying, you have to have this to be okay?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I want this because this is in alignment with who I am and what makes me and it's not even what makes me feel good, because we can feel good without it, but it's aligned
Yeah.
with who I am, right? And
Yeah.
the key thing there is just taking that pause to step back and to be curious, because there is so much out there, some very, very, very smart, well-educated people who know exactly which buttons to press to tell us that we're in a state of lack. And if we're feeling in
Yeah.
that state of lack or not good enoughness about something, what I'm hearing is that that is where the alarm bell goes. Oh my goodness, I am in that. I'll just make sure, compensatory desire was the term you used.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
compensatory desire that's not serving me.
Correct.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And
So
I
many
mean,
gems.
and maybe you still want it anyway, and that's okay too. But you
Yeah,
want to know what's actually happening.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
you'll spend your life running after a bunch of shit that's not going to make you happy.
Yeah, and we
And
see
to
that all around
avoid
us, right?
we see that all the time, you know? And so to save yourself a lot of grief,
Mm,
recognizing when something is a compensatory desire upfront gives you choice. Like, okay, yeah, my desire to eat this bar of chocolate right now is a compensatory desire because I'm emotionally stuffing my feelings. And I'm going to do that consciously, knowing that's what I'm going to do, you know, knowing I'm doing that. And I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this chocolate, knowing it's not really going to fix anything. But in the moment, it's what I want. That's okay too. Right.
thank
And,
you.
and yeah, I mean, it's not about being like having a spiritual stick up your ass. You know, it's just not about that,
Yeah.
which we can tend to get. Those of
Yeah.
us who are spiritually inclined, we can tend to get rather rigid and tight about stuff. And so I want to really
Mm,
bring home the piece about we're born on this planet with the ability to feel
mm,
and want. And
mm.
that is a God, if that's not your language, call it universe, life, whatever. That's a hoo-ha given gift, right? So that is in and of itself good.
Yeah.
And the problem that we run into as human beings is we privilege certain feelings over others. This feeling good, this feeling bad, this desire good, this desire bad. And that's where we create the problems.
Mm,
And so, can you come back to all the range of feeling is allowed? That permission slip you mentioned at the top of the call. Everything I feel is allowed. Everything I feel is good. But do I want to act on it?
mm,
I might have rage and want to punch a wall. That's fine. Do I really want to do that? The consequence might be I break my hand. The consequence might be I break the wall. Maybe not what I truly want to do. Maybe I don't want either of those things. So I choose not to punch the wall. But my rage is permitted. And the difference is, what do we do with it? What do we do with the things we feel? When we're sad, what do we do with that? Instead of the culture telling us to stuff our feelings and go eat a bag of popcorn to be happy, can we allow our grief
yeah.
to, to excavate us, to excoriate everything that's stuck in there, to wash us clean? Can we allow our grief to do that so we can emerge new?
That is so beautiful. And again, anyone else, whether you're listening in live or on the replay, do drop those nuggets because this is what we need to really be reconnecting within the world right now, connecting with ourselves, connecting with other people, and the permission to be okay with the feelings that actually are what make us human and recognizing that they have a purpose. I love that because there is a lot of grief and there is a lot of stress and there is so much anxiety, and recognizing that actually that's all right. It's part of being human, and we can let it, you use that word, cleanse us, excoriate, clear everything out because that's what it's for. I love it.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
just very, very conscious. We could talk about this all day long. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
know,
we
like,
could.
you've been on this journey yourself of actually applying these principles. It's not just I've learned stuff and I teach, but you live this yourself, right? So,
Oh, yeah, I've been doing
so
this work for over 30 years.
yeah, exactly. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to share some of the kind of real life aspects in terms of what you've learned and how it's helped you, but also that question about, you know, there's always that but that we have when we go, oh, it's all right for Marie Elizabeth, but there's the roadblocks, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what have you learned about how to actually implement this in practice in terms of what it can actually help you to bring into being, but also how to navigate all of that stuff that comes across the curveballs of life, the roadblocks, the obstacles. Mm,
Oh, yeah. Uh, I just had an interesting experience this weekend,
Mm,
and also in recent history. Uh, so I'll tie them both together, and it's going to be around chronic pain.
mm,
So in my early 40s, I began having hip pain, and I'm a stubborn wench, and I almost said the other word, but and so uh, and and so I just, I did all the things, right? I was a good spiritual practitioner. I went and did the hypnosis, and I got the acupuncture, and I did the massage, and I did I was trying to heal it from the inside out. And what is my hip pain really about? I read the Louise Hay, all that shit.
mhm, mhm,
And and ultimately, after 5 years, I could barely walk.
mm,
And I spent 5 years barely able to walk. And in that time, my life got quite constrained. I left New York. I moved to LA because I could no longer walk to the subway. So I had trouble getting around New York. So I moved to LA so I could drive. And also because I had friends and community there. And I was meant to go there clearly because then Patrick and I got together. And here we are 7 years later, engaged to be married. But so so in that sense, the pain served that too. It got me to LA. But what I had to learn was that physical that the difficulties of life, the stuff of life, it has things to teach us.
mm,
And the invitation is not to wallow, but what qualities am I being invited to develop through this difficult circumstance? This is
mm,
something I learned from Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, which is something he always said. What quality am I being asked to develop through this? So for me, like, what quality am I asked to be developed through not being able to walk through this pain? Well, the quality of allowing others to help me. I was raised very independent. I always had to do everything myself. I had a barrier against asking for help.
mm,
And and suddenly I was in a position where I had to ask for a lot of help. And it humbled me in a very necessary way. And one of my teachers at the time, said to me once when I was bemoaning the fact that I couldn't walk, said, "Your pain could be the thing that gets you free if you would just let it." And that was the lesson I really needed. Was I grew up in a culture rife with disconnection. In the West, we're taught to be self-sufficient and independent and insular, like the single family unit and all this stuff. Everywhere else in the world, extended families live together. Everybody's helping out with the kids. Everybody's helping everybody. You live in a community and you don't have sugar, and you go and get sugar at your neighbor's house, and you give them some chicken because they ran out of chicken. Like, there's an interdependence that exists in many cultures, and not so much in the US, where I
mm,
mostly grew up. And so the what I discovered was the pain really burnt me to a crisp enough and humbled me enough that I began to ask for help. And I began to confront my unwillingness to receive, my difficulty in receiving,
mm.
which for many of us women who are raised to be super independent and smart and successful, we often have a lack of receiving muscle.
Yeah.
We do, but we don't be and we don't receive. And that's very often why we don't have a boyfriend either, if we're heterosexual, or a girlfriend, or
Mm,
non-binary partner, or whatever your jam is. And and so that's really, I think the invitation is, rather than resist the things that you don't like in your life, what is the quality you're being asked to develop through these experiences?
yeah.
And And can you, even in the midst of the shittiest experience, can you still find beauty in the fact that you feel? Can you
Mm,
still find gratitude for having breath? Can you still recognize that there are awe inspiring synchronicities going on in life, even if you're hurting?
mm,
And through those through cleaving to that, through putting your attention there, instead of allowing the pain or the suffering or the grief or the trauma or the whatever it is that's got you locked, instead of allowing that to separate you further from yourself and other people, taking your attention off that and putting it onto, well, where could I ask for help? Where could I reach out for connection? Where could I connect more deeply to myself? What is the invitation here? To me, that's the ultimate work. And that's the potential of relationships, to reveal the spots where we normally would shut out love and connection and
Yeah.
instead can invite it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'll say, anyone else getting some nuggets from this, you're welcome to share them, because we're talking here really about the magic. If we can open up to that invitation, it doesn't just change our relationships and that side of our lives. This is the magic that allows you to really be in that space of creating, and no matter what is happening outside, being able to wake up every day to a life that you love, if we can fully engage with that experience of being human, which is what we're talking about here, right? And being okay with it.
Right. And
Yeah.
can you love your life when it's not perfect, when you don't have everything you think you want?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a way also, those of us who grew up with material comfort, we orient toward comfort.
Yeah.
And so, we become sort of you know, teacup life lovers. I only am going to love life if I have everything I want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, you love life even when your face is being ground into the dirt.
That's when we know that we actually are truly aligned with that, and happiness is probably not quite the right word, but that fulfillment, that true well-being, because that's when we are fully connected with that power that actually, no, I get to choose. I get to choose how I feel in the moment, and I don't need stuff to fill that hole. And once we're there, it's like the foundation, and everything else just happens with so much more ease. Now, this really is the work, which of course is why it's, I mean, everybody listening, if you love this idea of, yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to wake up every day loving life? That sounds nice, doesn't it? But for a lot of us, just this idea of doing this work, of seeing our relationships as that mirror, and just being open to that feedback and letting go of judgment and stepping back into that place of attachment, so that that picture of, even with our face being ground into the dirt, we can still be okay. That could feel a little bit like, oh, part of me might want to do that pushing away because it feels uncomfortable. But the reason it feels uncomfortable is because it's our old habits pushing back against growth. It's that comfort zone calling us, because it keeps us alive. It doesn't keep us happy. And it doesn't help us to tap into our purpose. The thing is, because there's that resistance, it's a really tough thing to do all by yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that's where that first, that what Marie Elizabeth was talking about being okay to ask for help, because the more we shut help off, ultimately we're going to be in that place where we have to, right?
Yeah.
We have to reach out and we have to ask for help, so we can be front-footed and proactive and go, actually, no, I'm going to practice that skill of asking for help. And
Oh, I love how you put that,
right?
front-footed. That's fantastic.
That's what it is, though, right? It's about
Yes.
proactively saying, yeah, I'm going to lean in fully to life. I didn't come here
Yeah.
to an island, right?
Don't do like I did and wait till you can barely walk, and have chronic pain for 10 years till you have to get hip replacements. Because I
Yeah.
forgot to tell you that piece of the
Oh my
story. I
God.
ended up having to get 2 hip replacements because I had bone spurs literally growing out of my femur heads.
Oh,
It was beyond laparoscopic, beyond being able to have any kind of intervention, because I was so stubborn and I was, refused to go to the doctor, and was trying to heal it holistically or whatever, which is, that's fine. But, it's another aspect of asking for help. And so don't do like I did and wait till you have bone spurs literally scraping your joints before you do something about it. Like, get help sooner. Don't wait till the
yeah.
cancer diagnosis to change your life. Like, do
Yeah.
it front-footed.
Take the feedback, right? It's all feedback, feedback from the world, feedback from our relationships. So I'm very, very excited because lots of Christmas goodies. So in a moment,
Mm.
I'm going to do well, let's actually do a quick recap now. And also, Marie Elizabeth has some wonderful things to share. And I also have an invitation. If you love these kinds of conversations and stepping into this level of conversation about what it takes in practice for us to put these principles in place so that we can actually wake up every day going, I love my life. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. I love my life. Right. That's why we have these conversations each week. Let me know if you want to get a weekly invitation to them. Marie Elizabeth, is it all right with you if I just share some of the nuggets I've gained? I've got like lists and lists.
Please. I'd love to hear it. Thank you.
So many good things. And the one that just really, there are a few that really leap out, and a biggie for all of us is seeing relationships as that mirror, as a mirror to us about what's going on inside. And so that we can give ourselves that permission slip to let go of judging the other person or ourselves and actually lean into the gift that that feedback is, because it's saying, hey, this is the stuff that if I can focus on it and release it or shift it, then I'm going to break free. Right.
Yeah.
And that applies. You mentioned that with your hip replacement, is that actually, if we can lean into the experience, however uncomfortable or painful it is, what is the quality that I'm being invited to lean into here? Because
Yeah.
that's where our greatest opportunity is for growth. And once we do that, we're going to see the benefits across the board. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I also absolutely love you. You're asking us to step back and be curious and lean into that open palm. So we're not pushing away. We're
Mm.
not trying to grasp. We're being okay and leaning into that open palm of not being attached. The other third key thing I'm taking away from this is your 3Ds, which is using desire not as the kind of carrot to lure us forward, but as the fuel, using all of our emotions, in fact, that wonderful human experience of having emotions, and using that
Mm.
desire as the fuel to feel really good and excited about life. Right?
Mm.
Desire, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? It's just so nice to daydream. But
Yeah.
then actually bringing in some creative control by using our discernment and asking
Yes.
ourselves, being curious about, well, why is it that I want this? Do I want this because something inside of me or someone outside of me is saying, I need to have this to fill a hole because I'm incomplete or broken or lacking without it? What a lie that is. It's just so not true, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay if we want to have the thing anyway. I do love to enjoy chocolate. How did you know?
Me too.
Yeah. Um, but really, in that discernment of where am I going to focus my energy, it's about, does this feel in alignment with
Yeah.
me, right? How does it feel inside, and tuning into that? Because then when we do, that third D that you had was do something, step into doing. When we're doing things from that place of really that kind of excitement or alignment, or it feels good, that's so magical. And when we're like that, what I'm feeling is, doesn't matter what we're doing, none of it's work, right? Because we're doing
Yes.
it's good, yeah. So those are some of my key takeaways. But what else, as a key recap of what you'd love people to take from this conversation? What would you like to add?
First of all, I want to thank you for highlighting the 3 Ds. I didn't even know that I spoke in so many Ds, and I love that. You've just given me my next lead magnet. The
So
three
glad
Ds to having
I'll be
everything you
signing up.
want. Um, so thank you for that. I appreciate your distillation
You're welcome.
of the ideas. And I think the other recap piece is to really have a lot of self-compassion
Yeah,
and curiosity. I think I always tell people in relationships too that to stay curious, like stay curious about yourself and stay curious about the people in your life. It's so easy to allow the people of your life to kind of become part of the furniture,
yeah,
and you stop really seeing them and you start to predict their reactions, and the minute you're predicting their reactions, they're going to start reacting in the ways you predict. Why? Because you speak to them expecting a certain result, and so of course they're a mirror, they give you that, right? So to really stay open and curious and soft, have self-compassion, have compassion. We're doing the best we can. Some days we don't do so great. And some days we're on it. And that's okay because all feelings are allowed. And again, the other recap is all feelings are right. Like this is an exercise I sometimes give clients who are struggling. Like in particular, if there's a client struggling with self-esteem or feeling right about themselves, I will give them assignment for a week that whatever they're feeling, like to track what they're feeling. Like I'm feeling this, and that feeling is right. I'm feeling angry, and that feeling is right. I'm feeling numb, and that feeling is right. I'm feeling frustrated, and that feeling is right. I'm feeling irritated, and that feeling is right. And to do that so that they become the permission slip for their own being first. And then from there, discern, okay, do I actually want anything to come out of my mouth here? Like, it's
Mm,
okay to feel this way, but what do I actually want to come out of my mouth? Because I may not want to vomit up, word vomit all over this person right now. I may not want to blast them with my anger. So that's where the discernment, like all the feelings are okay, and you can be choosy about what you actually say and how you say it, which are some of the things I teach, because how we say things matter.
I can think of so many people I want to share that with, including myself, obviously. I mean, this is an ongoing skill, right?
It's a
It's an ongoing
practice.
thing, yeah. And when we do that, of course, that allows us to give ourselves permission to be okay with letting the help in. So I'm very, very excited for Wednesday. Can you tell us a little bit about Wednesday?
Yes, I'm so excited for Wednesday too, because this is so beautifully timed with this conversation. So on Wednesday, I'm teaching a free training called How to Powerfully Hold Difficult Conversations in Business and Personal Life. And what I'm going to be teaching you how to do is prepare, like set yourself up for the conversation, your piece. How do I energetically show up prepared to have this conversation so that it goes better? The second is, how do I set up the conversation so that it goes better? And the third is, how do I handle it in the conversation when it gets challenging? If I get activated or somebody else gets activated, what are some things I can do or say or not do or not say in order to have the thing go better? And I think this is so useful because, again, I'm not about applying conversation or communication techniques on the cesspool of our unmediated stuff. I'm about energetic alignment of our energy with what we're saying, which means we have to be aware of what stuff is operating under here. But when we're aware of it, we can bless it, we can allow it, we can set it aside for the moment in the service of the conversation and show up how we want to show up. And then we have the conversational frameworks to help us do that piece better. So you're all invited to come. It is for women only. So I love men. And if you're watching, thank you for watching. And uh, I'm so sorry. This one is not particularly for you, at least to be in the room. There will be opportunities to see this training elsewhere. But in terms of who's going to be on Zoom, it's going to be all women. And yeah, I think you have a link that.
And I was just going to say, I'm just going to bring up for anyone else who, like me, is going to be there. I'm just showing that link here at the bottom of the screen. And just the entrepreneur in me, too, is going, it's not just about our relationships. I'm thinking, my goodness, this sounds so much better than any of the formal trainings or trainings that I've invested in over the years on how to have the sales conversation, right? Which is all about techniquing people. And it's just, yeah. Whereas this actually is the magic about creating those connections, not just in our personal relationships, but with colleagues, with power partners, with potential clients, right? Because if we can
Yeah,
get that energy right and show up in that way in those conversations, we're going to have such an amazing relationship going forward. Would you agree with that?
I I totally agree. And I mean, this is why the tagline of my business is a great relationship starts with you.
Yeah,
It's
perfect. I
it,
love it.
because it's all about how we show up and what we bring to the conversation. Now, obviously, It's about the listening we are available for too. Like it's not just us, right? But how receptive are we? How can we land a difficult, let somebody else's difficult communication land with us and not immediately defend or react, but
Yeah.
actually go, wow, ooh, ouch, ooh,
Yeah.
that, hang on, I need to pause for a second and collect myself because that hit a nerve. Like, can
Yeah.
you stay present in a conversation and transparent just like that? They
So
go
beautiful.
very
This is the most
differently.
powerful, yeah, totally. I'm just thinking this is the most important life skill for us to have because that's where all of that compassion and quite frankly, in the world right now, this is the most important skill for us all to have because
Yeah,
when we come to our connections with other people from this kind of energy, so many of the issues that we have right now will go, or at least
yeah.
we'll be able to handle and respond to them. So join us on Wednesday. I'm so excited for this. How to powerfully hold difficult conversations. It's free. Come along. It's free on Zoom with Marie Elizabeth. Lovealchemy.live/hard convos. So we'd love to see you
Yes.
there. And also, that's not it because some of you may be listening to this going, I actually want to I want to unpack a little bit more of what's going on with me as well. So just make a note of that, lovealchemy.live/hard convos. If you want to dive in a little bit further and get some more insights into what might be, creating some stuckness in your relationships, Marie Elizabeth also has a free assessment for you. And some of us are in relationships, some of us aren't. So, Marie Elizabeth, do you want to just say a word or two about those?
You bet. Yeah, so I created this assessment really as a way for you to get a quick snapshot. It takes about 5 minutes to do. And it's a quick snapshot into what's working well already in terms of how you relate and how you show up to your relationships, who you're being.
Mm,
And and it also gives you a clear indicator of, well, what is it I might need to focus on to improve? Because we have to see where we're at. This is why assessments are useful. In order to change anything, you have to know what the hell you want to change. So this assessment shows you really clearly, and there's one for single folks, as you said, and one for partnered. Single and dating is the one, and then the other is for people who are in a relationship who really want to assess, like, where should we be putting our focus, or I be putting my focus in how I'm showing up to this partnership, or what is a conversation even I might need to have with my partner about, hey, I notice that we're slipping, we're not actually making time to do stuff together, like could we make some time, right? So this assessment will help you see where to put your attention and what you can sort of allow to be as it is because it's already working. Otherwise, we can have this globalized sense of like something feels off. And I know I need to change something, but then we don't do anything about it because we don't know what it is. And it feels global and it feels huge. And then change gets hard. So
mm,
this assessment really helps you distill. Uh, okay, this is working. We're good. Like, let's leave that and let's put our attention in this one spot. Let's make sure we make some time together or whatever it is. And if you're single, the one for single folks is really, how ready am I to have a relationship? Do I want to start considering allowing someone in? How much have I healed the hurts and the disappointments and the traumas of the past so that I can be ready to open? And
mm.
where am I with that? Am I even ready? I mean, I also have a self-study program called Relationship Ready for folks who are readying themselves to have a relationship, to help them put the past to rest and create the future vision. So if that's interesting to you, just reach out to me. But the assessment really shows you, oh, this is where, again, I can place my attention. Like, oh, yes, I've healed the past, but I notice that I'm not putting myself out there. So then your focus needs to be, oh, I need to actually put myself in situations where I might meet another human that I would be interested in dating, right?
That's the first step, right? Actually be
First step.
accessible. Yeah,
Yeah.
allowing myself to be available, right? And I've just been popping the links up. So it's lovealchemy.live/singles. If you are wanting to understand where you're at and you know what you might want to focus on, so that when you do bring a relationship into your life, it's one that you love, and it's one that loves you,
Yes.
and that brings you what you want. And I was,
Exactly. So you're
yeah,
not just repeating the trauma of the past. You're not just attracting the mirror image of your stuff, your old stuff, but you're
yeah,
actually attracting someone who can meet you here
yeah,
and grow together. Because
yeah,
that to me, I'm about growth oriented relationships. Like if you're just
beautiful.
here to like get a relationship to go to sleep and kind of be comfortable, not my thing. But if you're here to allow love, which is the most purificatory and potent energy of the universe, if you're here to allow that universe to splay you open in the most beautiful of ways, and actually have deep love and connection with another person, then
Yeah.
you
And that
know
is the
then
fuel for creating everything in life,
yeah,
right? It allows
yeah,
everything else. So if you're in a relationship, I've just popped the link for that up again, lovealchemy.live/assess. And it's
yep,
you say self-assessment. Another way of thinking about it, it's a celebration and opportunity exercise, right? What do I want to celebrate, and what are the opportunities I've got? So
love it,
because
yes.
we always have opportunities to expand, to grow more, to get more juicy enjoyment and fulfillment out of life. And this is the starting point. So I invite you to have a look at those. Marie Elizabeth, we could keep talking all day, and there's so much to this, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming on. And look, I'd just like to celebrate some of the things people have dropped in the chats as well. Loving that idea of being invited and letting that in. We've got
Mm,
love hearts around that, and
mm,
really focusing in on that relationship, the relationship with ourselves, and that idea of
yes.
starting with our relationship with ourselves and thinking about that. And it's like the ground rock of everything else, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. And the analogy that Marilyn said of loving the analogy of when
The
you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. And that's where other people become, the symbiotic,
yeah,
the interdependent, beautiful mirrors for you is
yeah,
that person can help you see yourself more
yeah. So,
clearly.
so good. They're actually helping us, whatever it looks like in the moment.
Right. It
So
may be
good.
a blessing disguised as like a yucky
Yeah. Yeah.
thing, but they're
Oh,
helping us, Sometimes it's wearing a costume. That help sometimes looks like
that's
a
right.
Halloween costume, but it still help.
That's right. That's right. So great timing. Thank you so much for coming on right now, because, of course, Christmas is the time where we really want to be tooled up for this stuff.
Oh,
Looking
yes.
forward to Wednesday. Thank you so much for that and for sharing it so generously. And I just love and appreciate everything you do, Marie Elizabeth.
Ah,
Everyone who's joined live or on the replay, thank you so much for coming along and joining with us. If any other nuggets or ahas come to you, you're very welcome to share them. We love knowing that this has been helpful to you. And I'll be back next week where we're talking actually about how to nourish your body. Talking
mm,
to an amazing lady, Kinga, who's an intuitive, she's energetic, and she's a nutritionist as well. And we're going to be talking about how we can nourish this amazing body we live in, particularly through Thanksgiving and the festive season, which can be challenging times in that space. So, how you can feel good about yourself and your body, even at this time of the year. So,
I love that. That's great.
yeah, you're welcome to join us. Yeah, I'm going to be posting invitations to that, so you can come along. But it will be Monday next week that we're having that conversation. And thank you again, everyone, so much for sharing this with us, sharing the love. See you.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Marie Elizabeth.